Welcome, everyone. It looks like people are still joining us. Hopefully you are here for Google Slides Basics. That is the course that we are offering right now. So as we are admitting our participants here to our Zoom meeting, wanted to make sure that you had access to the slide deck that we will be utilizing more as a resource than as an actual teaching tool today. And the way my brain works is that there'll be 3 of these classes for Google Slides. And this slide deck will serve as a resource for all 3 of the classes. And it will be probably an enormous slide deck, right, of resources that you can come back to later in time. We're going to be demoing actually in Google Slides. So if you are already just kind of hanging out waiting for us to get started, you could go ahead and open this slide deck and a new one. If you know how to do that, you're welcome to open up just a blank slide deck. And I'm going to be demoing in that new slide deck together. So those of you who are just joining us, welcome. This is Google Slides Basics. I believe the link is in the chat for you to get access to this slide deck. And we're going to get started in just a moment. My name is Carrie Coonard. I'm the picture there on the left. And my friends Nicole Carter and Kristen McCartney are going to be helping to facilitate this session, trying to cover the enormous world of Google Slides. I started putting together this slide deck thinking, oh, okay, I'll break it into 3 sessions, right? Basic, intermediate, and advanced. And that sounds way easier said than done. Google Slides is outright my favorite program. There are so many things that you can do within Google Slides that it's going to be really hard to fit it into 3 sessions, put it that way. I'm thinking at the end of this series, we will take your feedback and say, well, which one of those things would you like an entire session on, right? Many of the things that we're going to cover could be 45 minutes in and of themselves. So hopefully everybody has the slide deck. And if not, it'll be in the chat for you. I'm going to go ahead and hop on to the next slide, which is right here. Making sure that you know that during this webinar, it is being recorded so people can watch at a later time. So if you have questions, if you don't mind sliding them into the comments for us, the chat, excuse me, that would be really helpful. And I think that's always great. Sometimes other people can answer your questions, and Nicole and Kristen and I can hop in there as well. So to get us started in the chat, can you please list something that you're hoping to learn about Google Slides today? So just hop in that chat and answer that question as we're admitting our last friends, and we're making sure that everyone has access to the slide deck. And again, if you can open a second tab and get Google Slides open, that will be perfect, because I always think it's helpful when you are trying it at the same time. And if you're watching this on video, watch the video, pause it, try it on your own. I think that's the easiest way to actually learn how to do all of these things, especially for today's session. Okay, hopefully everybody's answered that question in there. Appreciate that. I've mentioned that we have 3 sessions, and I'm on slide number 3 if you're following along. The basic session is today. Right now, it's live happening, and we're gonna hopefully cover as much of this content as possible, right? We'll see how we do. The second 2 classes are not completely built out yet because they're not until the 18th and 19th, and to be honest, was waiting to get some of your feedback. So there will be way more here for the intermediate and advanced courses, and all of these will be recorded, videoed, and they will be linked here. So you can check out and see what's covered in the other classes and watch just a portion. Now, I did tell you that this slide deck is ridiculously big, and I, of course, it's funny because we're actually teaching a session on Google Slides and what you should do in Google Slides, and you should probably never create a slide deck that's this big, right? This is me not really following the good design principles, but I wanted it to be a place that you can go back to, a resource. So there are tons of videos and examples, and there is way more that we're going to be adding to this slide deck. And on slide 5, I just wanted to invite you. There are we always say we're better together, right? So if you happen to have a Google Slide resource that you'd be willing to share with other people, you've used, you've seen, you saw a template for something and you'd be willing to share it, if you email it to me, I'll add it to the slide deck so this resource can continue growing for us. And there will be tons and tons of ideas in here to launch you into Google Slides. And like I said, Google Slides is by far my favorite. I think there is just so much you can do in there. I'm kind of maybe a Google Slides snob a little bit. Someone will do something in a doc and I'm like, why on earth would we do it in a Google Doc when we can do it in a Google Slide? So I'm definitely drinking the Kool-Aid here and a huge, huge fan of Google Slides for all that it can do. Okay, you'll notice that this slide deck is organized by basic, intermediate, and advanced, and all the resources are there, but I'm gonna hop out and I'm gonna hop into a new Google slide. So if you can hop in there as well, you have all kinds of options for how to get there. I'm just gonna hop into my Drive really quickly. You have this little waffle menu right here. You could click right here and you could go to create a new slides right there. Or you can go over to new on the left here in my Drive and it should pull up for me. If it's working beautifully, it should pull up for me that I have the option to create something new. And one of those is a Google slide, but it doesn't want to. So I'm going to ignore that. Oh, super slow. Super, that's awesome. All right, I'm going to go into create a new slide. Let's get myself a new slide. And if you can go ahead and get yourself a new slide as well, then you can try all of these things right along with me. And again, this is a basic class. So we'll be going over just some of the very initial things. And once you master these little tools, and I'm gonna just open a new blank one. Once you master these tools, you can make some pretty fancy looking things in Google. All right, here is my slide. And my slide opens up just like this, and hopefully yours looks like this as well. And it's just a blank template, right? And mine, of course, my internet's going super fast. Not helpful. All right.
Hey, Carrie, can I stop you for a second? Because I do have some people asking if there's any way that we can kind of show them maybe how to split the screen on their teacher Macs, either minimizing windows so that you have 2 windows, or even Macs do this great thing where you press and hold on the green button in the top right-hand corner that automatically will split your screen in half for you. So I don't know if we can show that at all. I feel like that could be kind of helpful as people are trying to watch you and do it at the same time.
Yes, that would be helpful. Let's see here. All right, so I suppose you could have up your brand new presentation, and Nicole was referring to this little green spot right here. And if you hold down on that, that will split your screen so that you could have a separate view over here that you could be watching me do it live, and you could be doing it on your own on the split screen.
I personally think minimizing the windows so that you have like a smaller screen of Carrie's, you know, and then you can have a larger screen of your slide deck so that you can see all of the tools that she's going to be mentioning. I think a automatic half screen split like that might be too severe, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay, sorry, I just wanted to make sure that everybody felt good about being able to see 2 windows on one device.
Perfect. All right, it automatically assumes that this is a title page for me. So it gives me just 2 kind of boring title page little text boxes there that I could add to. Right over here, just like in any Google presentation, any Google product, I can name it right over here. So this is going to be my test, right? So I can manipulate, change the title of it right there. Now, because I do have 2 co-presenters, I'm going to jump really quickly. One of the great parts about Google is that it can be collaborative. So we have a share menu over here, just like you do in Google Docs or whatever. In this share menu, I can invite other people to collaborate on this document with me. And I'm going to, just so they can pop in as well, I'm going to invite Nicole to join us, and I'm going to invite Kristen to join us in case they want to add something on there and show you some other things. So I made sure when I invited them, over here on the right, I have options. So I have the option to let them simply be viewers. They can just see my Google slide. They can be commenters, so they can give me feedback on it, but not actually manipulate my content. Or I can give them full editing rights, which for this purpose, I do want them to be able to hop in and show you things as well. I can notify them. It goes to an email letting them know that they have permission. I could type a message there to them if I wanted to. So as soon as I send that to them, they are then invited, and lets me know up here that people have been added to my slideshow, so they can come in and we can be working on this together, which always makes life so much simpler. You'll notice that Nicole's little image popped up right there, and that lets me know that she is now live on this document with me as well. So you can see how many people are on. Oh, there's Kristen too. Hello, friends. So they are on. Oh, look at that. They're already getting fancy on me. So they have already hopped on this document with me. So that's how you'd go about sharing it with other people. So in terms of these text boxes, they automatically give you text boxes, which is awesome. So just for grins, we can go ahead and just add a title there. And I'm going to be super creative, and I'm going to call mine title. Yeah, there we go. So I have a title, and then down here, it gives you, and this is just their automatic setup, and you certainly don't have to stick with those, but they're assuming that you want a title slide at the head of your presentation, and then you want other slides following that. So I personally don't currently love the font that they have. So you'll notice up here at the top, I don't seem to have any options to change that font because I haven't selected anything. You'll see my little, oh, what's that guy called? The little crosshairs? I don't know, my little cursor. My little cursor is floating around there, and I haven't selected anything, so I don't really have many options up here to change the font. But as soon as I click on this box, you'll notice that my menu changes. So sometimes you'll be like, whoa, what happened to that? Where's the menu or the options that I wanted? And likely it's because you don't have that selected. So now that I have that selected, then I can go about changing the font. And there are certain fonts that you have in here. So go ahead and change it to something that you think is fun. You have the ability in Google to add more fonts up here, and you'll notice this option right here, more fonts. The ones that I use a lot tend to be kept here at the top, the most recent ones that I've used. So you can mess around with changing the font right there. Next to that, yeah.
I'm going to jump in real quick. Something to think about, just like when we are presenting to our peers, you know, using easy to read fonts and thinking about our design is super important. So black, you know, backgrounds with white cursive writing can be really difficult for our students to read, just like we wouldn't want them necessarily turning something into us with crazy fonts. We need to be kind of thinking about readability and accessibility as well. Sorry.
No, perfect. That's awesome. Interject whenever. So I can also manipulate this right here is the size. I can go right to this number and I can make it nice and big, 80. Or I also have the plus and minus on the side. If I just want to do it in smaller increments, I keep touching this and it's going up by 1. So you can change the size of your title there or your subtitle right here with this menu. My next option is that I can bold it. So if I want nice bold title, ooh, that's fancy. All right, so I'm gonna have a nice bold title with this one. Next one is italicized if I want it to be in italics, which I don't. So you'll notice that when it is highlighted there, I have that in effect, and I can just touch it again to remove that. So it's no longer italicized. I can underline it if I wanted, and I don't. And I could change the color. So up at the top are all of these regular colors. And then down here are colors, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in the next class, colors that match the specific theme of this or the style, and we can play around with style a little bit. And you can also do custom colors. Maybe we can talk about that in another session as well. For some reason, let's pretend I wanted to have this subtitle highlighted. The next option right here is to highlight it. So I can highlight it, and this is great in student writing or showing them a particular part or whatever. So if I wanted to highlight that, there we go. That one's highlighted as well. One of the things that you'll notice is do you see how this has a box around it? That shows me that my friend Kristen is touching this text box right now. So you can see like where she's manipulating and where I'm manipulating. And the color, her little cursor and the things that she does will be in the same color that is around her face here. So when Nicole does something on the screen, it will be in that pink color. That will be her cursor, so I'll know what Nicole's doing. And you'll notice off to the left, Nicole is right over there. You can see her on the left. She's adding additional pages to our slideshow to show a additional things. So it's kind of helpful when once you know people's colors up here at the top, I'm like, oh, okay, appreciate it, Nicole. Thanks for doing that. And Kristen, thank you for fixing that thing for me. So that's pretty nice. All right, in addition to that, let's see here. You have all kinds of alignment options over here. I'm going to skip link for now and comment for now. And I'm going to go to this one right here. This one is to align. So I have the option in which a title, I love to have it centered, but I could choose for some reason have my text oriented over to the left. I have the option to orient it to the right. I can disperse it, which is like newspapery, like columns match on the sides. I can also center it from top to bottom. I can put it all the way to the top of my box. I can put it in the center or the bottom, and I tend to like it in the center. I also
really quickly,
yeah.
Going to jump in one more time.
Yes.
To go back to your talking about us having different colors and things. So when it comes to using slide decks, like while teaching, a great use of slide decks is to potentially create some sort of template where all of your students are assigned a specific page, or you have them go in and they create their own page. And if you're teaching and you want to see specifically what each student is doing, if you actually click on their color or face up at the top or their initials, it will jump you to wherever they personally are. So Carrie just showed you, she clicked on my face and it jumped her down to slide 6, which is where I am at. So in terms of like actually teaching and being able to see exactly what one person is doing over the other, that's another easy way to navigate through a larger document if you're using it while teaching. Sorry,
No.
I didn't want to lose that.
Sorry at all, jump in whenever. If I had more text on the screen right here, you can space it out, like how the space between lines, if this was a writing piece or whatever. So I have options here to do some spacing. Again, if I had more text on the screen, you can number things, right? So if I had a bulleted list here that I wanted to have different things numbered, and I had items, you can immediately, let's see, number, right? Number, items right here. And I just did that by touching this little number one. You can also have this option right here, which is a bulleted list, and it can do simple bullets, or you can get fancy and you can go to the little arrow on the right and you have different layout options. So if I'd prefer it to be more of a checkbox that students complete things, let's see, and align that, there we go, it's aligned. Same thing under numbers. I have all kinds of fancy numbering systems over there if I wanted to use those as well. All right, Kristen or Nicole, other things on text?
Sorry, I was just looking up stuff on information design because Susan was asking, like, is there a specific font or a size of font? And I think anytime we think about presentations, whether that's to our peers or to our students, less text, larger text, easy to read text, all of those pieces are key. When you actually open up the font and go into more fonts, there's a way to filter so that you can see fonts that look like handwriting and fonts that look like, I think they're titled display. Am I right? Under, go under show all fonts. Yes, that one. So yeah, so display fonts are going to be fonts that are easy for people to read. Whereas, well, lobster I wouldn't say is easy to read, but but it allows you to filter and just kind of take into account what those things will look like. Honestly, the monospace and serif and sans serif fonts are all going to be really easy to read, kind of boring, but easy to read. So I think you just have to kind of think about what application you're using them for. But anything that you select, and obviously when we teach students how to do this, I give a time limit when I show them how to access more fonts. I'm like, okay, you know, this is a rabbit hole. And even for teachers, we can get so distracted by how many awesome options are here. But you'll see on Carrie's screen that Patio 1 has a check mark next to it and it's bright blue. That means that she has selected that as a font for all of her Google products. So that now means that Patio 1 will show up in Google Sheets, Google Docs, well, it doesn't show up in Google Forms, but it shows up across the board. So that just means you've added it to your font library. You want to show them that quick little trick that I always talk about with the resizing. Did you show them that already?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay, so my favorite trick to resize something is to highlight, as Carrie has done here, and then I use my keyboard. I do Command Shift, and then I use the greater than, less than, the carrots, the tiny little carrots. And that allows you to go up and down in size to find just the right size for whatever you're doing. And that usually is a lot easier and faster for me than having to go up to the sizing drop down box. So that's Command Shift greater than less than, which is right to the right of your space bar, those two little carrots.
Okay, perfect. All right, so that's like nitty gritty getting the text in there, right? Like those text boxes were already there. If I wanted to create my own text box, I have this little icon right here that says text box. I grab that and I'm given these little crosshairs. And when I click and drag it, I create a text box to be the size that I want it to be. If I only want it to be that big, great, this big, whatever. So I create my own little text box. And right now this text box just creates a cursor and my new text box, right? I could put whatever text I want there and it stays within this boundary that I've established for it. Now, if I want to do any manipulation, you always get these little, I call them the blue handles. I don't know what they're really called. If I want to move this down, I can grab it from the corner and I can drag that text box to be smaller. I could make it more narrow if I wanted, right? I could elongate it. It's up to you how you want to go about. You'll notice that it doesn't have any real layout to it. So again, if I went to that centering, I could center my words and I could put them in the middle of that new text box. Now this is a unit together. So if I thought it would look pretty snazzy if this text box had color behind it, you have options up here in this little paint bucket. It looks like it's spilling some paint. It's called your fill color. I could pick color to go behind this text if I wanted to. Like, ooh, that looks fancy, right? So if I wanted to have color going behind it, I'd select that. As soon as I have my handles back on here, I could go in and make sure that it had a border behind it. So I could add a border, and this is the thickness of that border. So let's pretend I want a really bold statement. Oh yes, that is a spectacular text box, right? So if you were trying to get students to pay attention to or to define an area, right? You could create a text box. Nicole was talking about having students each have a template, which we'll talk about. And you could say in here, you want them to answer a question, right? Like, this is where I want you to type in your vocabulary word, right? And then I could create another section. This is where I want you to define it. This is where I want you to, and I kind of indicate to students where they do different work based upon these text boxes that I've inserted.
I'm going to jump in again because we had someone share privately with me, going back to fonts one more time. But she said one of our ELD families said that some of our fonts are really difficult for families to read, especially if we're transferring from what we might be seeing on a desktop to a mobile version. So for example, she said Comic Sans is one of her favorites, but that's actually really difficult for some of our families to read. So I do think that it is something for us to keep in mind, that the fonts that we're choosing really need to be accessible and readable. Just putting that out there again. That was a wonderful example. We just need to be thinking about what we're putting out.
That's incredibly helpful. Yeah, maybe we could do some research and add a page in our slide deck about fonts that are very readable on multiple devices.
Yes. Yeah. My person's still telling me what translates well. So that's another factor. If yes. You've got people at home that their Google is their home language is switched, from English to Spanish, then their translation is also potentially going to be off depending on what fonts we're using. So I think that is a really, really fabulous tip. And I just want to make sure we all heard it. So.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Another thing that you can add up here is shapes. So you have this shape menu over here and you have the ability to add shapes. And if you hover over here, it pulls up a sub menu of all these different kinds of shapes that you could select. And we're doing a geometry lesson and I need an octagon. It will give you a little crosshairs again. And if I just drag, that little octagon becomes as big as I want him to be. So you can create a number of different shapes in there, and recall that same fill tool will work here as well. I want oh yes, bright green, perfect, that's fabulous. So you can, and again, I'll look up here, whoa, there's my shape menu. I could just do regular shapes. They have arrows, which is super helpful to direct kids' attention to what you want them to, or progression or whatever. We have call outs, and there's these cute little banners in there, and like speech bubbly kind of a things, and equations. All you math teachers, you can have all these built-in equation tools right there. So you can create all of these different shapes and import all of the shapes. You also have a line tool here where you could create just a straight line, right? You could create an arrow. You could create all kinds of fun lines like elbow connectors. I don't think I've ever used that. I think I need to. I could create an elbow connector. I don't even know how it's going to work. Oh yeah, cool. There, an elbow connector, like a pipe. Cool. And you can play with, I know Nicole loves the polyline tool. You can do scribbles, all kinds of different things in there that you can utilize to create some designs. Whoa, I got another elbow thing, score. All right, so those are some of the basic things up here. We also have the ability to insert images. And one of the things that I love about Google Slides is that you can do the things up here and do it properly. I can insert the image. I can upload something I've already saved to my computer. I can search for it right on the internet, which is really helpful. It pulls up this little side menu right here, and I type in what I'm looking for. And I want an image of a puppy to go with my octagon lesson and vocabulary word, apparently. I'm kind of all over the board. And I love this puppy. Yep, that puppy is the perfect one. I select that little puppy. You can say insert, or you can, I think, just drag him right over. Here comes my puppy, beautiful. Oh, super cute and super big. So again, I can grab those handles and I can make him the size that I want him to be. And I'm gonna put him right over my awesome elbow connectors. So that's a way that you can insert images right there. And I believe that these images right here are Creative Commons approved, is that right?
Sorry, I think so. I think so.
I believe
I'd have
so.
to check on that.
So for now, until you hear from us, you can go ahead and use those pictures. You don't have to worry about it. All right, so that is a way to insert an image. Now you can also take that little image, which is kind of fancy, and you can go over the shape tool, and let's see, you could, let's see, how do I do that? How do I make him a circle? I've forgotten.
Oh, insert it, and then I just did this yesterday.
I know. Well, shoot. I'll come back to that. I've forgotten how to do that. Someone who remembers, let me know.
Oh, I know. I remember.
You remember? Okay.
Yes. Go in, select it, and then use the drop-down menu next to the crop tool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You can mask the image. Thank you. It's not under the shapes. They hide the essentially same menu under this crop tool right here, which we'll talk about in just a second. And you can actually make him into a fun shape if you wanted to. If I wanted to have a circular dog, yeah, ovally dog, perfect. There's my ovally dog, right? In Google, you also have the ability to undo or redo things. So I don't love that circle dog. I'm going to get rid of it. Yeah. So you can always just hop back there one step from what you've done. And if you continue hitting that button, it will delete further and further steps. If I really only wanted his head, right? I don't really want the whole dog. I just wanted his head for some reason. Instead of dragging from the corner, if I make it smaller, it's just going to stay. I don't want his body. I just want his head. That's not going to help. But if I click on here, double click on here, see how it created this black border around? That black border is actually enabling me to crop him. So I'm going to grab this little slide here and I'm going to drag it over, and I'm getting rid of that portion of the image. And I use this a ton. I know Nicole and Kristen do as well. When we're designing things and we're like, oh, I only want this portion of it, right? There's 3 images here and I only want one of them. I'll input the image and then I will get rid of the parts that I don't want by cropping them out. So I only want his head, beautiful. Once I click out, you'll see that it's only his head. When I double click in there, if for some reason I wanted his body again, right, I could go back and I could drag it in there if I wanted to extend that image. Okay. Other things that are fun to do is to change the background. Right now I kind of have a a pretty boring background. It's just white in the back. So up here under background, if you touch that background, and again, remember, I don't want to have anything highlighted. So if I had something highlighted, it's harder to find that background menu, but if I just click on white space, it pulls it up for me again. So in background, I could just change the color, right? That's simple. I could just have a specific color in my background if I wanted to. I could pick an image and there could be a picture behind there, or I could choose a theme. So that's kind of fun to play around with. Again, thinking about readability and thinking about what looks good, and lavender with that green does not look good. This is not a good example, but you get the idea of how you could change the background there.
Hey, Carrie, can you show one more time really quickly how you got to the insert image from the web?
I sure can. I have options for how to get there. I can get up here, insert. I have the insert. I can go to insert image right there and search from the web. I also have this little picture, this little icon, insert image. I could choose that and I could go search the web, and it pulls up this little side menu for me, which is just super nice. I don't have to have multiple screens open, and I could add, I don't know, whatever. I could add a cat to go with my dog, and they're gonna pull up images of cats here for me, which is, oh yeah, that guy, love that guy. I can touch this insert button here once I've selected him, and now, oh, perfect. This is awesome. And there we go. I'm going to make him smaller again by grabbing that corner and dragging him so that he's a smaller image. Again, if I think there's too much green there and I just want the cat, I double tap it and I can crop out the rest of that, pretending that was too big for the space I had it.
Are we showing them how to do GIFs in another one?
Yes.
Okay.
Not today.
Okay.
Another thing that I can insert, you have this insert menu over here, and there are tons of different things that you can add into your slide. So one of the things that I use a ton is inserting a table. And a table is just a nice organized chunk of boxes, right? So if you want a table, that is, and you can determine a 3x1, you want to make the schedule for the week, right? I need 5 days by 2, beautiful. So I insert, I really shouldn't be doing all this on the same slide, huh? I can insert this table right here into my slide. And this awesome table, let's see here, it's just a mess now. It's just a sloppy mess, this table. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna copy it, and I'm gonna do Command C, and I'm gonna take it to see if we can move it onto my next slide, because that is just too much stuff happening for me. Because of course you wouldn't put that much stuff. Oh, beautiful. Okay, so I just copied that and I pasted it, and I used the Command C to copy and the Command V to paste. So if this was going to be our weekly schedule for the class, right? So I've got this weekly schedule, and I'm going to not take time to do this, but you get the idea. I would type in the days of the week and they would type in all of their assignments. The part that's really nice is you can select the whole thing. It keeps alignment really nice. It makes me really happy. I can change the row, like if I don't need that much space for like the days of the week, you can just slide up, right? And if I want a bigger section for, you can drag it to be as big as you want. If I wanted it to take up this whole slide, this is going to be our weekly schedule, friends. And this is what I certainly don't need that much for the day. There we go. I have a nice big chunk for my assignment, and I can have everything listed right there. So that would be a way to include a table. And I know a lot of people use tables. It just keeps information nicely organized for kids and for families. So that's how you go.
I will even sometimes use a table and then delete the lines.
Oh, yes.
So people won't even know it's a table, right? But it helps me stay organized. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right, we inserted a table. Let's see what else is on our to-do list. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and look at that insert menu. And another option we have up here to insert, and there's things that we've done before. We have this thing called word art. So if you insert word art, it's just kind of a fun way to add text. So you type in the text that you want here and you hit return, and it created what I typed. So I said word art, so there it is. It creates a giant thing in word art. And it just makes these fun big letters. So you can go about changing that. That's that great font I just chose, right? So you change the font of it. If you want to fill it with a nice bold color, right? Let's pretend, this probably should have said schedule, huh? But that's how you go about messing around with word art. So you can manipulate, if I don't have that much space, they're going to become really narrow letters. So it's kind of a fun way to create nice, nice headers and titles for pages.
I think like one of the reasons I've started using word art more and more is that simple fact that you can just drag it to meet the space that you have available, and it will just automatically resize it for you without having to do any of the font resizing. So I've started using word art more and more.
Let's see here. Another thing that a number of teachers are doing over on the side, if I want to create a new slide, I have this plus menu over here on the far, far, far left. I can add another slide to my slide presentation. Another thing that a lot of teachers are wanting to do in their slides is to insert a video. So if you go up on insert, one of the options that you have is to insert a video. And I'm going to grab this awesome puppy. I just happen to have a video open that I want to show my students, and I'm just going to copy this YouTube address up at the top. Command C is having me copy it. And then when I come back, it gives me these options. It says, do you want to pull it from YouTube? Do you have a separate web address, or are you grabbing it from your Google Drive? And this one happens to be from YouTube. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste that in there. I'm going to click this to find the video. It's going to say, is this the one you want? I click the one I want, and I click select. And after I do that, it will generate the video right here in my slide for me. So I could be presenting to my class and just show this video that I already have embedded right in my slide. If I'm doing that on Zoom or whatever, I don't have to ever go to YouTube. We can watch it right inside the slide, which is really helpful when you worry about sending kids off to YouTube and getting down that rabbit hole of YouTube things. Now, this is 7 minutes of cute puppies, and although that's spectacular for me, I don't really want my students to watch all 7 minutes of this. We're just gonna get a cute puppy. We're gonna watch a minute, right? A minute, that's all we need. We're gonna get the first few cute puppies, and then we'll do a writing prompt or whatever it is. So you can determine the starting time and the ending time of that. You could mute the audio. There is kind of some annoying music in there if I wanted to. And you can autoplay when presenting. If you wanted it to just automatically start when students got to that slide, you could put it, you could click this and it would automatically start for you. Any other tips or tricks there, ladies?
When we do our waiting rooms, I don't know if any of you have noticed that we like to put that like 5-minute timer. So if you ever use timers a lot and you are teaching straight from a slide deck, you can just do a Google search or a YouTube search for 5-minute timer, 10-minute timer, 2-minute timer. They're all out there like that. And then you can embed it as a video timer right straight into the slide. You can also add in, you know, audio only music videos, not videos because they're audio only. So it's like a static image with like background music. Those both are things that I know I've used a lot when teaching from a slide deck. I also sometimes, to make the most of the space on the video slide that Carrie's got there, and I'm one of the only ones that ever does this, so this might not even be helpful, but I always change the background to black, and then I resize the video to make it as large as I can within the slide. Just so that I'm maximizing the screen when I'm presenting, if I'm going to show. Also, another tip or trick, if you are using Google Slides through Zoom as you're teaching, when you go into the share screen, and I might actually pull a, because that's hard for you guys to see. No, that like the share screen in Zoom, Carrie, is what I'm thinking. Oh. There is a box that you can check where it uses your computer audio, but it also right next to it will also allow you to maximize the video output for sharing a video. Let me see if I can show you what that looks like. Here, I've got a picture.
Okay. I'm
gonna put it on your test one so everyone can just see it. Is that okay, Carrie?
Yeah, great.
It's hard to show things in Zoom when we're in Zoom doing it with you. Do you know what I'm saying? So the screen I'm talking about, the 2 boxes I'm talking about are actually, they're right here. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. So share computer sound, and then the box right next to it, optimize screen share for a video click. When you share your screen with students, you want to click both of those tiny little boxes, and then you'll get better audio for your students, but then it also will help with lag if you have issues with that. And by the way, we are offering a Zoom class tomorrow, and am I doing it back to back, Wednesday and then Thursday? So I'll be going over helpful tips and tricks like that with teaching within Zoom. So if you are available, sign up for that. Sorry.
No, you're great. Linking. Let's see here. I'm going to jump back to my schedule here, and you have options to link text. And this is so helpful for students trying to navigate, or parents. If this was a spectacularly organized slide deck here, and I wanted my students to jump to the schedule, I could select it, and right up here you have this option here to insert a link. And when you insert a link, you can paste a web link, so an external link like that YouTube link. I also have the option to link to something that's already in this presentation. I happen to know that that schedule is slide number 2. So I'm gonna choose right here, slide number 2, schedule, and I'm gonna click apply. So now when students or parents are on my homepage and they want to get to the schedule page, if they click this, it will pull up a link that takes them directly to the page that I was wanting them to go to. So I could do, again, the same thing with the video screen here. I could select it and I can link it. And I know that that's slide number 3. It's not going to say so because I took the title off of it, but I know it's slide 3 here, and I can click apply. So now those are hot linked, right, to take me directly to those slides within my slideshow. If for some reason you wanted to directly have the kids go to YouTube through here, I could do that. I could, let's pretend it's in my schedule and this was the assignment, I wanted them to watch it. I just take this text and I can link that text, and I just would paste the YouTube right there. I click apply, and when the kids touch here, it's going to take them out of this slide deck and it's going to take them to YouTube to watch that video. Now, if you joined me for the Seesaw class, you'll know that Seesaw now has student links to the direct activities. So I would be linking this word right here that said reading log directly to the Seesaw activity. Any questions? I do want to, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. We have a couple of people that are still kind of asking about the transfer of putting a video like this into a slide and then moving it into Seesaw for students to be able to see. So I don't know if you want to touch on that just really quickly.
Yeah, happily. I would create a slide deck that only had this video in it. So I would go up to File, and so pretending I only had this video, I would go up down here to Publish to the Web. And when I click publish to the web, it's going to give me, it's going to turn this slide deck into basically like a web page. So I'm going to say that I want it to start this slideshow. I want it to start playing as soon as the player loads. I'm going to click publish, and it says, are you sure you want to publish? I say, yes, I'm sure I want to publish. It gives me this link right here. And when I grab that link right there, and then I put that into Seesaw, it's going to make this look like a fancy presentation. I wonder if I can do it really fast for you. Really fast. Can I do it really fast? Let's try. It will make it look like that is a web page, and it won't actually take the students to, let's see, can I add this link? I'm just gonna stick it in an announcement really fast. You'd probably put it in something way more organized than this, but if I stick that address in there, it's gonna think, and it's going to allow students to watch that video without taking them to YouTube. It's gonna just have, see how it has the borders around here? And again, it likely wouldn't be multiple pages. This would just be the page where my video was. But unfortunately, I didn't just have the video. Does that make sense? Kind of, sort of, maybe. If I had just done the video, when you pop right in here to watch it, the students would be able to just watch that video. And again, not a great example because I had those other things. Okay, there are other things to play around with as well, and one of those is layouts. On layouts, you have different ways that your slide can be set up. So if I had a blank slide, I'm starting a brand new slide, and I look up here under layout, they already have some things organized for me. So, oh, great, here's a 2-column layout. That will help with what I want to do. Or here's, let's pretend that's helpful. Awesome, they already have the text boxes set up for me. So you can look at some of the layouts that you have as options. You also can play around with the theme, and Google has a number of different themes in here for your slide deck. Again, you're going to want to make sure it's not too crazy busy, but perhaps they've already done a lot of the layout for you. So if I click on this one, it's going to apply that to all of my slides. So all of my slides will take on this theme. So it's added that color there. You'll notice back on my title, it's given it that orange color because this entire theme is that way. Let me add a bigger theme so you can see, and it's not going to look super great initially, but you'll get the idea. So if I had pretended I really liked this pop theme, see how it added that, and it changed my background color on me, so I could make sure that background color, I could change it to the yellow that they had. There we go. So it put that theme in for me. And when I go to a new layout, you'll notice that the layouts are now in that theme. So, ooh, okay, that one's great. I do like that it continues matching colors. When you're watching a slideshow video and the presenter, like my horrible example right here, keeps changing, the color scheme keeps changing, the font, it becomes more difficult to you start to pay more attention to the layout than you actually do the content that's on there. So these are some fun themes. And in our next session, we'll take a look at even more themes. And people are coming out with tons and tons of different themes that are already done for you. Like the difficult layout part is done. You can import a theme that already has a student journal, an interactive reading log ready to go for you. So ladies, are there any questions that we can do? We didn't get to everything on our list. Like I said, there are simply too many things to cover in Google Slides for sure. But there will be an intermediate class on next Tuesday. Next Tuesday at noon, there will be an intermediate class, and we will cover these concepts, and I'll slide the things over that we didn't quite get to from this session. And then there's an advance the following day on the 19th at noon. I know that we're beyond our time. Is there a question or two that we can answer? If not, at the very end of the slide deck, and again, I tell you, this slide deck is going to be fabulous when it's all completed. It's got so many resources and things just to check out. Like you just kind of browse around here. Near the end, I just have examples. So you can look at, oh, okay, there's a Bitmoji classroom. We'll be covering that next time. Oh, here's a way that a teacher got kids to just drag and drop. They're supposed to take this answer and drag it to be the correct answer. So there are all kinds of different examples. This one's fun. Kids are designing a virtual locker as a get to know you activity, or a virtual cubby. What would you have in your cubby? What's important to you? So there are math things in here. There are, this is one Nicole and I were looking at earlier. You could create a whole room full of manipulatives, right? So the kids access, they have links to all the places that you want them to go. Slide 80, these are epic book collections. So this teacher has just made a bookshelf and stuck, these are all linked to epic collections that she's made. So they're just super accessible for her students.
It's kind of crazy when you start to see stuff like this that people have built, like how far you can go. And I remember back in the day, people would talk about how much they did not like Google Slides because they didn't feel like they had enough tools to make it look as pretty as they might have been able to do in PowerPoint. But I think people are starting to prove that you can really take Google Slides really far. So
people are sharing things where all the work has really been done for you, right? They're just sharing, like done templates, and you slide your Bitmoji in there and, you know, call it good, right?
Right. You don't have to take hours and hours to make a Bitmoji classroom. Like there's thousands already made that you can be like, yeah, this fits my personality. I'm good to go.
Yes, please. Done and done, right? Slide 94 at the very end there, almost the very end of this slideshow. Thank you for listening if you're watching this live or if you're watching it on video. And 3 steps that I'd love you to do at the end here. If you could please fill out the feedback form. And beyond just getting feedback for how our session went, what we really are hoping for are your suggestions for courses that you'd like to see in the future. That's one of the questions on there. And we are mining that. We are literally having a meeting next week where we are pulling out what you want and we're planning the next PD sessions. Make sure that you have registered for this course in TeacherSource. And then this is the basics course. If you click the top link right here, it will take you to the check-in for this course. So you can make sure that you get credit for watching this course. And there will be a link in there for the Anytime course. If you're watching it on video, I'll add that link in there as well. Anything else, ladies?
I know someone was asking about that Zoom class, and I just want to reiterate that I'm going beyond the basics. We've got basics that, I mean, I'm assuming we all use Zoom quite a bit in the spring. And so we do have a basics recording from last spring that you can watch, but I'm going to be doing an intermediate course tomorrow at 10, and then an advanced course on teaching with Zoom on Thursday at 10. So back to back, intermediate to advanced, where we'll be going over a lot of tips and tricks for utilizing Google Slides, but other tools as well while we're in Zoom, so you guys can feel more comfortable with it.
Awesome. And again, if you take this week to play around with some of these basics, click around on this slide deck. And again, I'll be building more. We'll be adding more resources to this slide deck. And join us next week for the intermediate and advanced. And I'm assuming beyond that, we'll have sessions specifically for your needs as well in Google Slides. But it is by far the tool that I would use to create my lessons, to do interactive lessons, to have students respond. You can use it in Canvas. You can use it in Seesaw. It is super, super versatile and design friendly.
Agreed.
All right, friends, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it, and go enjoy the sunshine.